But yeah, things have changed a little bit. Things have changed a little bit since we were together last. So I appreciate, most importantly, the Association of Realtors for trusting me. I appreciate you, Lisa, and Anne Marie, and everybody with the Association of Realtors who has trusted me with such an important message. And it's only gotten more and more important since everything keeps happening in our industry. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to share such an important message, and honored. So last time we were together, I don't know who was with us. I'm going to recap a little bit about what we went over last time we were together. I want you to understand that what we're going to go over today is simply the framework of what actually is a 3.5-hour workshop at this point, going over the consultation and going over the steps of the consultation and the framework of the conversation that I believe has actually driven the passion I have for buyers, and that continued passion I have for buyers, and the life that I'm able to have working for buyers, showing only 4.5 homes and writing only 1.5 offers still, and getting my business from repeat business. And so there's so much that's going to go into this conversation that evolves way past the hour today. And I want you to understand, I wish I could get to all of it in 1 hour, but in reality, these conversations that I have with these buyers, they sometimes last an hour and a half long. And in that hour and a half, I'm saving myself hours and hours and hours of time in the process with that buyer. So obviously, it's not possible to go through in depth every step of this conversation in this 1 hour. So if anybody's interested, we're going to talk later about how I can offer the workshop in a later setting. What I want to do is I'm going to share the screen now. Let's get into where we were last time. I probably should share the screen first. Sorry. Probably helped if I shared the screen first for everybody, right? All right. We can, everybody see it? All right. Last time we were together, I shared with you the reasoning behind why I believe the home buyer is and can be the force for a referral-based business in real estate. That because of the moments that these home buyers are having and the opportunity that we get to be guides for these people during that process, that I believe the feelings that they get in that process allow us to become their trusted advisor. And I started last session by talking about Maya Angelou's quote. And Maya Angelou said, "I learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never, ever forget how you made them feel." And so when we left last session, we understood that how our consumer, our client, feels is the only thing that matters when we leave the experience of helping them. It's not all the work we did. It's not all the running around we did. It's not all the things that we say that we think that are so smart that impact our clients more than how they feel. And the most important thing for me is the understanding that if I want my clients to feel amazing about the experience, they have to walk away from it and they have to make sure that they leave it going, I have to refer Adam to everybody, and I'm going to make sure I come back to Adam no matter what, when anything has to do with real estate. If they feel that way, I'm going to not fight for business in the future. No one here wants to do open houses twice a weekend for their entirety of their career or fight for every opportunity. I just happen to believe, and in my experience, can show that working with buyers and giving them that feeling can provide you that opportunity for referrals and repeat business. And so it simply comes down to, in my mind, giving the client an epic experience, right? The epic experience is simply the experience that is the best possible outcome that they can have. It's not, okay, they did good, but not great. It's leaving the experience. And so when I left you guys last week, well, months and months ago, right? We talked about the definition of epic having to be 3 things. It has to be unforgettable. The experience with the home buyer has to be unforgettable. We said that every time we work with our client, they have to leave it smiling. It has to be a positive experience that's unforgettable, that makes them smile. The problem in our business is that if they're unforgettable and makes them smile, that's not enough for us. I believe we all think that's enough. We give them this experience that we think is unforgettable. We think they're smiling. We give them Cutco knives, and we think we've done everything that we need to do to make sure they refer us or come back to us. And in reality, we're not doing enough. We have to take an extra step. We have to do something in the experience to connect with the buyer, to make sure they know who we are and how we are there for them, so that when we leave the experience, they have to tell everybody about it. Like the Epic experience makes sure that in 10 years, your business is going to come from those people who leave the experience of you helping them through the most expensive moment of their life, the most emotionally and financially expensive moment of their life. And you're not just a door opener. They're not forgetting you. Not only are they not forgetting you, but they're leaving that telling everybody about what you did for them, something you did for them, something little that was specific to them. It has to be specific to them for them to tell everybody, because if it's basic and for everybody, they're not going to tell everybody about it. It's also not going to be special. So we're going to give Epic experiences to everybody. Now, first and foremost, we go into every consultation and we have to fulfill all of our goals before we go into the consultation. So the most important thing I want you to all understand here is that everybody in their form, some way, somehow may be doing some version of a conversation with home buyers. And in my experience in talking to home buyers, they have these consultations where they might get the criteria for the home buyer, or they might get a piece of it. And actually, they might get a buyer agency at the end of that conversation that they have with the home buyer. The problem is, my brother bought a home with me a couple years ago. If my goal of having this conversation with my brother in the beginning of his experience was only to get him to hire me, I didn't even need to have the conversation with him, because he was going to hire me no matter what. And so, great, I got commitment from my brother. The problem was, my brother doesn't know what the market looks like. My brother doesn't know how aggressive he was going to need to be in the market. My brother doesn't know anything about real estate at all. And so if I don't explain to him early in the process what to expect in the market that he was about to jump into, how frustrating is it going to be for the consumer when they're dealing with all the frustrations that they deal with? So I need to set expectations with my brother. I need to do that early in the beginning of the experience, so that when these things start happening, I now become the guide that they believe in, because I'm all of a sudden being the person that had the crystal ball of what was going to happen. So the reason why I'm saying this to everybody is, you need to build your own personal conversation. What we're going to do today is, I'm going to tell you the framework of the conversation that I have with my home buyers. I'm going to take you step by step in a very clear way, because I believe there is a structure to the conversation we have to have, and we have to talk about the right things at the right time with our home buyers. What I also want everybody to understand is, you have to create your own personal consultation that you're going to provide to the home buyer. The biggest mistake I made early on was I started to replicate other people's consultations and tried to repeat what other people were saying in their consultations. The problem is, if I'm trying to get to know the people I'm with and I want them to get to know me, how are they going to get to know who I am truly if I'm doing somebody else's show? So what I want you to all to understand today is that my passion is showing you the foundation for the consultation that has worked for me. I'm going to go through the steps of the conversation, because I believe we have to talk about the right things at the right time. But I do believe you all need to create your own show that you're doing for your buyer to give them the feelings that they need to have when leaving it. Every one of your shows, though, has to have the buyer leaving fulfilling all of the mission of the consultation. I don't care what show you do, but you have got to make sure that you leave it knowing that you have fulfilled every single one of these steps of your consultation. If you haven't, or if you start to struggle with a home buyer after doing consultations, I promise you, it's going to be something along the way that you can do in the consultation to fix it. And you're going to have to know what the problem is first. So let's start with number one. When we do our consultations, we have to get to know the people that we're actually helping through this process. We do not get to know people in vacant, empty homes for 15 minutes. You don't get to know who the people are that you're guiding. The buyer deserves for you to get to know who they are when they're buying the most expensive thing they bought in their life. They may not know it. We all know this. The buyer wants to go see the house. They want to click a button and they want to go see the house. As professionals, we should know better to know that they deserve better than that. They deserve to know who they're trusting, and we need to know who they are, because buying a home is personal. It's going to be where they wake up in the morning. It's going to be where they go to bed at night. It is not selling their property where they sell it, they get the most money, and you walk away. You absolutely need to get to know the ins and outs and the characteristics and the personality and the life of the person that you're helping, because all of this matters. If you don't get to know the people that you're helping, how can you say you're good for that person? You can't. And the people need to walk away from it looking at you as their guide. Until you become their guide in their head, someone else in their life is better at talking to them about real estate. They need to know why you're there and need to know who you are and what you're going to be for them. You need to get to know your people. Step 2, in every consultation, you have got to set expectations for the consumer. The consumer needs to know what is going to happen before it happens. Nobody in this world works well under pressure when they don't know what's about to come to them. The buyer deserves to know what to expect in the market. They need to know how aggressive the market is. There has never been more difficult time to buy a home, in my experience, in 18 years than the last 4 years. Why do we assume that we met a buyer at 123 Main Street, that they know the market, that they know what the market looks like? They don't. They need to know what to expect so that they can go through that experience, and they deserve the best experience by knowing what to expect. Third, we're going to build trust with the people that we're working for. We're going to trust them and they're going to trust us. I trust my buyers. Why? Because they get to know them. They get to know me. They commit to me being their professional. I trust them. I don't think, wow, are they really looking for me to be their agent, or are they finding somebody else? And most importantly, your clients deserve somebody that they trust. I have never met somebody in a vacant building that I trusted so much to represent me through hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of investment. Why do we believe that our people should just listen to what we say just because we met them in an empty house? The cool thing is, with the changing market that everybody's scared of, instead of being scared, you should be excited about the opportunity that you're now going to have conversations with buyers, to set expectations and build the trust and show the value that we've always had, because we've never been just door openers. Fourth thing, we're going to create win-win scenarios, because it does not make sense for us to help 1 million buyers buy homes and hate our lives doing it. I never wanted to run around showing 1 million homes just to get deals done. I want to enjoy my life just as much as my clients want to enjoy their experience. We're going to create an experience for our clients where we enjoy it too. I don't miss the moments of my life with my kids. My clients don't expect me to miss moments of my life with my kids, because we build that relationship with each other. That relationship that leads to a committed buyer agency contract every single time. Nobody on this call should be scared of asking people to commit to you, to be their professional, to represent them through the most expensive thing they ever bought in their life. If you have value, you show it, and your clients will commit to you. I am proof of it. My clients have signed buyer agency with me for 13 years before I started working with them, every single time. And if you commit to doing the consultation, the easiest thing in the world is getting commitment from that consumer. When the consumer walks away from the consultation with you, they're going to feel guided. They're going to feel trust. They're going to feel the extreme desire to commit to you, because they're going to be afraid of the life that would be if they didn't have you guiding them. Because the things they didn't know, they now know what it would have been if they didn't have the right guide. Now that they believe they need a guide, who else are they going to trust? My clients commit to me because they believe I'm the right guide, and they're not going to do it if you met them in an empty house. The last thing, and the way to actually make this a point where you're actually not fighting for business 10 years down the road and doing open houses every weekend, you're going to find ways in the consultation, because you know what you're going to say and how you're going to say it and when you're going to say it. And you're so studied and practiced that you're going to listen to your clients so that you can find little opportunities to actually impact them personally. Instead of buying a Cutco knife for every single one of your clients at settlement, when one of your clients or most of your clients may have no desire to cook in the kitchen or ever work in the kitchen or have no desire to touch a knife, you're going to actually find out from your client what matters to them, and you're going to impact them with something that actually matters to them. Now, for me, I love Cutco knives because I love being in the kitchen. And if I told my realtor in my consultation how much I have a passion for cooking and the kitchen, then it's going to be an amazing thing when my realtor hands me a knife and says, you said to me how much you love the kitchen, and this is a knife that I found that's a great knife. But if they don't love that, why are you giving it to them? Making it epic is listening to your clients, taking amazing notes, knowing exactly how your clients' birthdays are, their anniversaries are, and impacting them in a personal way. The consultation is the best opportunity to get all of that information. In an hour and a half, when I know what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it, and I know how I'm going to guide that conversation, I can actually listen to the people that are in front of me and take cues from what they're saying and how they're saying it so that I can actually find a way to impact them personally when the time comes. That's how you make it epic. Are we good? We know the mission now because we got to get to it, right? We are going to now enter the world of the consultation, which I know everybody's been kind of waiting for, right? There's two things I want to talk about prior to going into every consultation. That was always my mindset before I entered every consultation. Anytime I do it, whether it's on Zoom, which by the way, I do 95% of my consultations on Zoom now. Because my clients are comfortable in their home, they are more likely to have longer conversations about the personal lives when they're in their comforts of their home, not in my office, worrying about how long it's going to take them to get home. If you need to get comfortable on Zoom because your clients are comfortable on Zoom. 4 years ago, everybody's life changed where we could actually interact with our families that we couldn't see, even if they were 10 minutes away. I promise you, everybody is comfortable on Zoom, and you will have way more impactful consultations with your home buyer if you're doing it that way, because they don't have to drive to your office after a long day of work. They don't have to have a stranger in their home that they don't know. They're way more likely to open up to you if they're in their own home on a couch having a conversation with you. So using Zoom is a major, major benefit that you need to take advantage of. The second thing is you need to know that every consultation is your client's show. In real estate, there are a lot of good days and bad days. There are a lot of days where something really tough happens, where we lose a deal or a buyer frustrates us. The toughest thing to do is to put all of that aside when you're entering into a new consultation with a new home buyer. The buyer deserves the best of your attitude, your energy, and everything about what you're bringing to that conversation if you truly want to actually have a good consultation. So you have to clear your mind of anything that happened, actually negative and positive through the day, because you have to make sure that whatever's happening doesn't come into that consultation. Especially on Zoom, it comes across. So you have to have that go into it. The second thing, I want you to assume that the people you're with don't trust you. I want you to assume that there is a wall of mistrust that is in front of you that you have got to break down, and you got an hour to an hour and a half to break down a gigantic wall of mistrust, because you are going to be asking these people to trust you to make decisions that are the most emotionally stressful financial decisions of their lives. You need to take all of the mistrust that's in front of you and break down as much of it as you can before you start the process. Before you take them into showing them homes and writing offers, you have got to break down the wall of mistrust that's in front of you. And by the way, if there isn't a wall of mistrust, you're going to win really easy. But assume there's a wall of mistrust in front of you at all times. I always look at it like my wife and I going to someone who's trying to sell us something. I don't care if it's a car salesman or whatever it is that's going to sell us something. We always sit in the car ahead of time and go, we're not signing anything. We're not buying anything. We're not paying for anything. We're going to get in and get out. There's no trust there. And so we have to assume that trust is not there so that we can enter into the conversation first and foremost, knowing that's what we have to do first. Because if we jump into the conversation telling people what to do or who we are or how we are, and they don't trust us, we're just going to lose them right off the bat. Is everybody on board with that? Yes? Lynn, I can see you, and I'm hoping you're going to give me a thumbs up that I'm doing all right. Am I doing all right, Lynn? All right. I love seeing you here, and I'm going to say that on recording. Lynn is like an amazing human being, is one of my mentors, and I'm going to say it even though it's being recorded, and she won't want me to say that even though I am. So they don't trust you. Make sense? All right. Next step is, how are we going to intentionally prepare for the consultation? We're going to enter a conversation with people. We want them to show up, because here's the thing. In our business, it's very, very, very difficult sometimes to show people the benefits of meeting with us before they go see the house. It can be very tough to convert that conversation into meet with me. You don't want to go see the house. And so when we do that and we get that awesome moment where the buyer says, great, I'm going to meet you on Thursday to talk about this process, and I'm excited because now I see the benefits of it. It's really a struggle when that person calls me on Thursday and says, I have to reschedule. And then I have to go back into the system and go back and follow up, because you need to follow up with everybody in a CRM. And so we need to increase what's called the set to met ratio before we can talk about what we're going to do when we meet the buyer. Because if we're not meeting buyers and circling back, we're going to get frustrated with the process. So there is a very intentional steps that I do when I get a buyer to meet with me. When a buyer agrees to meet with me, the first thing that I do is that I get on my phone and I get insanely uncomfortable, and I send them a personal video that simply says, hey, Lynn, it's Adam. I'm so excited to meet you on Thursday. By the way, if you see a home between now and Thursday, send it to me and I'll research it for you, make sure that it's worth us seeing, and maybe we'll go see it afterwards. I'm really excited to see you. I'll see you on Thursday. Everybody gets a video message from me every single time I set a new appointment. Here's the reason why. You become a human being to the people that you set the appointment for when they can see your face and see you speak to them. Up until that point, it's very easy for them to cancel on you. You're just a name on a voice on the phone or words on an email. When it's personal, they're less likely to cancel on you or reschedule on you. The second thing, I set the expectation that if they see a home between now and when I meet with them, the worst thing that I can hear from the buyer is, oh, I don't need to meet with you. I just met someone else at a house. Because when they leave the conversation with me, they're still likely going online, still looking at homes. And there's an even better chance they're going to click on a button that's going to say to them, click this button and someone else will meet you. You don't need to meet Adam on Thursday. Meet this other person instead. So in the video, I want to set the expectation that if they see a property, I'm valuable to them because I'm going to research it and make sure it's worth them seeing. Always send a video message. No one's more uncomfortable with video than me. I absolutely hate it. But I know how impactful it can be. We have to get out of our comfort zone. Second thing, we have to send an introduction email that firms up exactly how we're meeting and where they're going, if it's Zoom or where the addresses they're going. That email also needs to give them an access point to search for homes that hopefully directs back to you. So you need to find a way, whether it's Bright or any other avenue, to find a way to say, hey, I'm going to give you an access point to search. So if you see a home between now and then, it's going to come to you, their guide, because you are their guide. They don't know it yet, but you are. We also want to confirm every appointment, because sitting there and waiting for a buyer to show up and then have them not show up, that has me missing a moment in my life that I could be somewhere else. And so I want to confirm every appointment, know it's going to happen before. So I confirm 2 days ahead, because man, I can clear my schedule to something else. I want to know 2 days ahead of time. The last thing I do before every consultation is that I prepare and sign every document that they are going to sign when they are done that consultation. So the buyer agency contract is filled out and signed by me. The consumer notice is filled out and signed by me. Other documents that I prepare for my clients are all prepared and signed by me before the consultation. There's two reasons for that. One, I don't need to be any delay in the client signing when we sit down and go over the paperwork. The second thing, I'm confident that I know when I go into these consultations that I am going to be the guide that they believe in, to be the person to represent them. And if I don't sign ahead of time, maybe I'm not that confident. So I just believe going into it so confident that I'm going to sign the paperwork ahead of time. That paperwork is signed electronically if it's done in DocuSign or .loop, or it's done in a folder on the table right with them, either in their house or in the conference room at my office. Everything's signed ahead of time. Are we good? We good? Give me a thumbs up. Someone. Yes? All right. So we are starting the consultation now. We are in front of these people. We are in front of them, whether it's on Zoom or whether it's in person. And so I believe the biggest mistake that agents make in their consultations is letting the buyer drive the conversation from the moment it starts. What the buyer wants is to tell you their criteria and run as fast as they possibly can. They want to tell you what they want in a house, and they don't want to hear anything else because they want to move on to go see homes because they're really excited to go see homes. And they don't know what the process is going to look like. If we sit down with a buyer and the first thing we allow them to do is give us their criteria, we're going to sound like peanuts teachers the rest of the class. Peanuts teachers. Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 wah. That's all we're going to sound like to the buyer, because if they tell us their criteria, there is a lot we need to go over. There is a ton we need to go over that's going to drive how they have an experience. And if they are not listening to what we're saying, we're going to be showing a million homes, we're going to be writing a million offers, and we're going to be fighting for our business in the future. So what do we have to do first? This is kind of ironic because what we have to do first is also the opposite of what everybody thinks we need to do. Because in my experience, everybody says, ask questions of the persons in front of you first. Ask questions, have them tell them about you, themselves. Make sure they tell you about themselves and ask a million questions about them. But I want you to imagine, I'm sitting in front of a total stranger, either on Zoom or in their office, or they're in my home and they are a total stranger. And the first thing the person says to me is, tell me everything about yourself. Tell me all this personal things about yourself. By the way, we do need to know personal things about our clients. They're buying a home that they're going to live in. I don't believe total strangers tell you everything about their personal lives as a first step. I wouldn't sit down in someone's office and start unloading all my personal life with someone that I don't know or trust even a little bit. So what I'm telling everybody is that I believe the first step in the consultation that you were with these people must be you telling them your story, why you're there, who you are and why you're there, and what you are to do for them in the consultation, or just generally who you are, needs to be the first brick that you break down in mistrust. Because the wall of mistrust that's in front of you doesn't start getting broken down when you get people to tell about themselves. It's going to start getting broken down when they start believing why you're there and who you're there. So what I'm going to tell everybody to do is prepare a 1-minute intro to your consultations that will show in 1 minute, can't be longer than 1 minute, why you're there for the consumer. And in that 1 minute, you are trying to hit all personality types, because if you speak for 1 minute to a type D personality, you're not going to hit at all any of the blocks that you want to break down and trust on the other types of personalities. The reason why I say it has to be a minute, because if you go longer, you're going to start upsetting the type D personality who says, get to the point. And so you want to prepare. And when I say prepare, I'm saying you need to know exactly what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, like you've said it 1,000,000 times. I'm going to do mine. Lynn, will you be my buyer? Yes, Lynn, you're my comfort zone here. Yeah. And you're not going to have to say anything, I promise. I just need a face to look at. So when you sit down and give your story, in 1 minute, you need to make these people feel like, wait a second, this isn't a salesman. This is someone that I might be comfortable enough speaking to about something that's so personal. So here's what I do. You ready? Lynn, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today. Your time is really important to me. I want to tell you that my wife and I, when we bought our first house, we had an awful experience. We were just young. We did what everybody else does. We clicked a button to see a house, and we met a random stranger at a house. We were really excited. We had no idea what we were doing. And we went and met this random stranger at the house. And sadly, we literally became a transaction from the moment we met that agent. And from that moment on, all we remember about that really important moment of our lives was that we were dragged by somebody who couldn't care less about the experience with us. Ironically, that got me into real estate. And so my job over the last 18 years in real estate is to make sure that my home buyer never, ever has the experience that I had, that I'm here to make sure that you do feel like you have a guide who cares about you in the process of buying a home, that you make sure you pay the least amount of money you can, but also make sure that you look back at the experience as someone that you could trust. Does that sound good? That's literally how I open up every single consultation. I don't know who's in front of me. I don't know anything about the person that's in front of me. We believe as real estate agents that somehow we can just meet people at homes and become what those people need of us. We actually need to know who that person is. Every buyer is a snowflake. I have not dealt with one buyer in my entire career that has ever been exactly the same, yet we do the exact same things for every single buyer. And so I believe by sitting there and using that opportunity to try and break down a wall of mistrust, I'm going to have a better opportunity to now open the door for them to now open up to me. I also use this opportunity, the second step of the introduction is to tell them, by the way, there is an entire team of people that are going to be involved in helping you buy this home, Lynn. There is going to be a mortgage person. There's going to be a home inspector. There's going to be title people. And I have a team of people to make sure the transaction goes right for you. My job is to put you in touch with people that I trust will give you that experience that I am trying to provide to you. You're never stuck using anybody that I work with, but I am going to put people in front of you that I believe through my experience are going to give you that same level of experience. Is that what you're looking for? Right? So here's what I'm doing here. I'm breaking down gigantic walls of mistrust that exist, because how many times has the buyer that you don't know that you met at the house been thinking, well, they're getting me in touch with their mortgage person. Ooh, there must be a benefit to them, right? You're a total stranger. So that person's looking at you going, well, why are they putting me in touch with their home inspector or their mortgage person and all these things? When we know we're doing what's in their best interest, because these people are going to be the superheroes to guide them through it. If you don't break down a wall of mistrust first, how are they going to trust the people you work with? Now, if we're creating win-win experiences, is it better for us that our clients use the people that we know, love, and have experience with? Yes. It creates a win-win scenario for the buyer if they start to build trust in us and the team that we're working on. What I want to talk about here is at every step of the way, now we're going to move next, is understanding how do we believe the buyer feels at each step. I believe when the buyer leaves the consultation, this part of the consultation with me, there's a feeling that the hardest person, I have broken at least one brick of mistrust down. The most difficult consumer, I believe, at the very least, I've taken one brick of mistrust off that wall. The easiest one, the whole wall is gone, and now they can open the door and start getting the feeling of, all right, now tell me about yourself. Even both scenarios, you need to get some level of trust in there. The client has to feel some level of trust before we get to the next step. If I don't feel the buyers felt that way, I'm going to try and get further into it before I get to the next step. Are we good? Thumbs up. All right. The next thing we're going to do is actually get to know our clients. We're going to spend some time in the conversation getting to know our people. We're going to use Ford as the platform to get to know our people. Ford stands for family, occupation, recreation, dreams. Simply put, this is the simplest way that you can put together questions to get to know your people. Do we need to know where our people are from? Absolutely. Where they have lived in their life matters on where they're going to live now. Do we need to know the occupation of our clients? Absolutely. For a million different reasons, we need to know the occupation of our clients, and I'll get to the second reason next. Recreation. Do we need to know what our clients love to do, what they want to have around them? Do they love parks? Do they love shopping? What do they love? We need to know these things. We also need to know the real estate dreams of our clients. Are they buying this as an investment? Are they buying to keep it forever? what is the purpose for the real estate dream that we're going to be there to help them for? Because if we don't know that, how in the world can we sit there and say, this is what you should do for this house? You should pay this much for the house because you're staying for 30 years as opposed to you want to stay for 7 years. There's a massive difference in the dreams of that consumer if we don't know it. The second part of all of this, as your clients are answering these questions, and you know what questions you're going to ask, and you know how you're going to ask it, and you're confident because you know your script, you know your show, the best part about using this opportunity is you can actually study the personality and the characteristics of the person you're with based on how they're answering the questions. You have to do 3 things at this moment. And I promise you, if you don't study your consultation and practice it and know exactly how you're going to do it, you are not going to be able to write down the things they're saying, listen to the things they're saying, and watch the things they're saying all at the same time. Because you need to hear what they're saying. You need to be writing it down, because if you're writing it down, they believe you're listening to them. But you also need to watch them. Because when you're doing forward with your clients and you're studying forward, you need to know, am I with a D personality, an I personality, an S personality? What type of personality am I with? Because you're about to guide them through every step of the actual process of buying a home. You need to know very early on, wait, this person's this type of personality. I need to speak to this in this way, because if I don't, I'm going to upset this person. Man, Lynn knows this about me. This is my biggest weakness in life, and I'm sharing it with all of you, and I'm doing it as much as I can. I sat in consultations for years, speaking to people with other types of personalities as myself as a high I personality. I got into a lot of personal things. And what I learned way too many years later is that I was upsetting three-quarters of the population with the way I was speaking to them. Because while I was talking to one type of person, there's 3 other types of people that are actually not going to be impacted in the same way. If you can actually do really good at this, and in the 5 minutes that you're going to have listening to them tell their story about who they are, not their criteria, who they are, you're going to actually start to study, wait a second, this person's answering questions very quickly. They're not telling me their personal life. They're not getting into it, or they told me they're an engineer. Wait a second, they told me they're an engineer, and everything they keep talking to me about is numbers. They keep talking to me about numbers and details and all the things, and I'm thinking, all right, I'm probably with a C personality right now. Someone who's an engineer who wants to know the specifics on numbers and details on numbers is someone who in the rest of the experience in the consultation, I need to hit home with that. So you can't do that unless you're studying the people. Now is the time to study it right here and now, because if you don't, you're going to be like me, upsetting people, talking about the rest of the process, not knowing that you're upsetting them. Make sense? We good? Moving on. By the way, how does the client feel after I've now broken down a mistrust by telling them who I am? I've now that they know who I am, they're more likely to tell me about themselves. And how do they feel? I need my clients to feel that they're being guided right now, because we are about to get into the finances of buying a home. And we're about to get into their money, the things they don't want to talk about. They do not talk about their money with people they don't trust. People don't say, oh, I have $300,000 available to me, to someone they don't trust. We do not enter the next part of the conversation unless we've broken down walls of mistrust. Understand, these are foundationally parts of the conversation that you're going to have to create for yourself. But you should be talking about yourself, then you should be talking about them next. And the next thing we need to be talking about is their financing. We have to stop letting them create the conversation about their criteria, because the first thing we all know they need to talk about is their financing. The buyer does not want to do it, but they have to. Do we all agree? Does everybody agree that financing is probably where we all get frustrated with the consumer who doesn't understand it, doesn't want to know it, but when it comes time to writing an offer, all of a sudden they don't understand any of it and they don't make right decisions because they never understood it to begin with. When we leave this part of the conversation, our buyer needs to understand everything that has to do with financing, and they have to be comfortable with it. Biggest difference. Here's how we sound to the buyer. Are you approved? Do you have a pre-approval? Do you have a pre-approval? Do you have a pre-approval? Pre-approval, approval, 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 approval. That is exactly how we sound to the consumer. We're a total stranger using the word approval about 1,000 times. Approval is judgment. Approval equals judgment. And no one likes to be judged. So asking someone if they're approved or what they're approved for when it doesn't matter does not set a trusting, committed, comfortable relationship with people. You know what we can do? We can find out what they're comfortable with and making sure that they understand the importance of what they're comfortable with beyond what they're approved for. Because buyers don't go to what they're approved for ever. They always want to know what they're comfortable with. So when I talk to my buyer in the consultation, I'm focusing their efforts on getting to a number of what they're comfortable with and having them understand the fear of not knowing the numbers way before they start looking at homes. The buyer has to understand that the most important decision that they are going to make in buying a home and the most important decision in who they're going to choose is going to be the lender that they choose. It is the most important in making sure that they have the best experience because there's a lot of great realtors out there. But the best buyer in the world going to the worst bank or the worst lender is going to provide them a god-awful experience. Here's the problem. The buyer doesn't have a clue why it happened because they never did it before. So they just think this must be a god-awful experience. So I'm going to go through A, B, and C bank that I know is horrible because they don't know. We meet with the buyer. They need to understand, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you need to understand that the most important decision you're going to make right now is the lender you're going to choose in buying the house, because we need to make sure that the lender you're working with has reviewed everything that you're comfortable with. And when you go to write a home, I want to know that the lender that you're reviewing those numbers with knows everything about your goals, everything about your focus, everything about your financing well before that very stressful moment. So would you say you want to know your numbers and know what you're comfortable with before you start looking at homes? Yes. So what we're going to do before we start looking at homes, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, or Mr. and Mr. Buyer, or Mrs. and Mrs. Buyer, or any type of buyer, we're going to make sure that you're comfortable with the numbers before we go see homes. Because I want to make sure that when I take you to homes, that I know you're comfortable with what those homes are going to sell for. And we're going to look at the right homes, not just a million homes, and then find out that you're not comfortable. Do you want to make sure you're comfortable before we go see homes? Yes. That is how I talk to my buyer about mortgage. We need to set expectations of what the next step is. Now, if you keep in mind, that buyer wants to still go see homes. But I just set the expectation that when we get done this whole thing, if they haven't spoken with the mortgage lender yet, they understand that has to happen first. It's in their best benefit or to have that happen first because they need to know what they're comfortable with because we agreed. We're moving on to that being the next step. Understand also, sometimes this happens before the consultation where the buyer goes, we get a buyer who's the best buyer in the world, the deer in headlights, who really wants guidance, who says to me, Adam, I'm excited to meet with you, but I don't know what my mortgage comfortable is. Can I talk to somebody ahead of time? That buyer, yes, absolutely. I'm going to have you speak with the lender that I trust. That way we're going to review numbers that I know you can trust as we're searching. The buyer also needs to understand that they're not choosing their lender at that time. When I talk to them in the consultation, I'm only getting them the understanding that the most important thing right now for you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, is that you understand that the mortgage person has to review numbers with you that we're comfortable with. Later on, you're going to choose the actual lender that's going to do your loan, but you want to know before you see homes that you're comfortable with every number that goes into it. Yes, that way I can move on to the next step of the conversation and they understand that's priority number one. That has to be number one before we do anything else. Everybody agree with that? There's nothing worse than taking a buyer to a home, having them fall in love with it, and then find out from a lender that they didn't trust or you didn't even know who they were, that the numbers weren't even remotely in their comfort zone. Yeah, they were approved for it, but nowhere near what they were comfortable with. And by the way, when your buyer starts talking to that wrong lender early in the process, you're going to be dealing with that bad lender the entire experience and trying to show the lender how they can educate your client. Your client deserves better than that. If you're the guide, they're going to look at you as someone that says, hey, can you show me someone that I can trust? you're sending your people out into the wolves if you're letting them go find random lender from someone that might have helped them buy, their parents buy a home 10 years ago. Or worst case scenario, they went online to Rocket Mortgage and they're committed to using the person they found on a phone call because they talked to them for 10 minutes. If we agree that the mortgage part of the process is the most frustrating part that the buyers can deal with, it needs to be the first thing we understand is the most critical thing. All right, we good? Next, I know we're going, man, we are going to go a little long because I'm going to keep this going, but it is going to go a little long, but it's going to be recorded if you have to leave. The next part is talking about the search with our clients. We are not talking about the actual search of our clients, though. This is not the time to have your clients tell you about their search criteria. This is the time to tell your clients how you're going to search for them and what your role is in the process of searching for homes. If you don't tell your clients what your role is into searching for homes for them, they believe your job is to find them homes faster than them. And that might have worked. When I started real estate almost 20 years ago, maybe we had the information faster than the consumer. Maybe we were there to show them that here's the house that came on the market faster than they knew about it. But in reality, that is gone. The buyer has access to almost every property that we have access to. If the value that our clients see in us is solely finding them properties online, we are going to lose our value very quickly in real estate because the buyer can find the properties without you. What we need to do, and what I do, here's what I do in my consultation. Hey, Lynn, I want to let you know, we're going to build a team around you to search for homes for you. I know that no one else is up at 3 a.m. looking at homes other than my clients. You might even be up at 3 o'clock looking for homes. What I want to do is make sure that we're building a team looking for homes with you. So while you're looking, I'm going to be looking. And we're going to be working together to try and find the home for you as fast as possible. But I don't have this big head that I have to be the one to find your home for you. What I want to do is make sure that when we see a home, that we're always looking at the right home every time and researching those homes. So it isn't going to be just about me searching for homes for you. It's making sure that we look at the right ones when they come up. Does that sound good? Here's the thing. I need to shift the expectation of the consumer because I have met with a million buyers who said to me, I was working with this other person. I was the one sending them homes and they weren't even sending me homes. And I'm thinking in my head, well, if you were sending homes at 2 o'clock in the morning, like many of my buyers do, then yes, you were the one sending homes to your agent. It isn't our value anymore. Our value is actually guiding them through the rest of the process and making sure they don't buy the wrong home. They can buy the wrong home with a million different people or know about it. What we need to do is make sure they know the right house. So that's where we get to the next step. I have told them how we're going to search. I have explained to them how I'm going to search for them and making sure that we're working as a team to find them the home as fast as possible. Now I need to show them what I'm going to do to make sure they never look at the wrong home. What I say to my buyers in the consultation, my job is to make sure that we're never in a home or in front of a home that you say, Adam, if you had done 1 minute of research, I would not be here. Why are we here? Why are we looking at this house? What I say to my buyers is, look, no one wants to spend 8 hours with me looking at 10 homes on a Saturday when we could have only looked at 2 or 3 that were the right possible ones, when 7 other ones maybe you wouldn't want to see if I had done 1 minute of research. So what we're going to do, Lynn, is we're going to make sure that whenever we schedule to go see a house, I'm going to take that minute and I'm going to research that house for you. And I am going to make sure that you know everything I would want you to know about that house, good, bad, and even more importantly, the ugliest things that aren't showing up. See, what happens is most people see homes online and they see the pictures. They don't even look at the description. They look at 3 pictures and they send a text message saying to their agent, I have to see this house right now, but they don't know anything about it. And the agent takes that text message with exclamation points and they schedule to show the buyer the home. Over and over again, they do this. And the buyer gets to the house and says, oh, I didn't know there was a train track behind it. I didn't know there was this obvious thing about the house. That why didn't the listing agent put the train track in the pictures? Duh. So what I talk to my buyers about, I say to them, we're going to review these homes before we schedule Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. We're going to schedule each of these. We're going to talk about each of these homes before we schedule to see them. This is where I save myself the showing of 1 million homes. My clients on average physically go see 4.5 homes because I set the expectations that I'm going to have conversations where I show them the red flags about homes before we're physically in the house. Instead of being an order taker and saying to the buyer, okay, just show me what homes you want to go see, and I'll just take you to see all of them and have you figure out whether you like any of them. I'm actually going to do work for you to make sure that you don't go see homes that you don't want to see. Is that what you're looking for? Yes. Like, my clients are looking for the agent who's going to remove the properties out of it. When this works perfectly, the text messages you get from your clients when they see homes online will go exactly like this. I can promise you, the first time it happens, you'll say it's working. You're going to get a text message from a client that says, hey, Adam, I saw this house online. What's wrong with it? When your buyers are sending you messages of finding out what's wrong with homes, you're going to start showing less homes because they're looking at you as the guide to save them the time of looking at the wrong homes. It's not about telling my clients what homes to see or not see. It's about making sure that I take the time to make sure that I'm not standing in a home before my clients get there and go, they're never buying this house. There's so many things about this house I could have gone over with them, and I wouldn't be in this house. I wouldn't be missing a moment of my life. I wouldn't be missing it. Showing homes all day on a Saturday is not a good day of real estate work. It's not. A good day of real estate work is showing your client why they shouldn't see 5 homes and taking them to the one home they're really excited to see because you showed them why. And now, by the way, the client who comes to see homes with me is excited more than ever to see the homes they're seeing because every home they see, Adam would have told us why we shouldn't see it. When you build a trusting relationship with the consumer, where you're the one that's telling them why they shouldn't see things and why the things are wrong with homes and actually guiding them, when the right one comes along and you're not giving them all the feedback of what's wrong with it, your clients get excited. They get really excited that they're about to go see a home that's worth seeing because, man, the person that keeps telling us why we shouldn't see homes isn't saying anything about this one. And when you're in the homes, they're also not doing it. You have to have these conversations. But you can't do this with total strangers. You don't go into an empty house, spend 10 minutes with the consumer, and then the next day tell them why they shouldn't see 5 out of the 6 homes that they sent you online that they're excited to see. You're not their guide. You're just the person saving them yourself time. All these people think is they don't want to show me those 5 homes because they're saving themselves time. When you become the guide that they trust, they see the benefit of you eliminating properties from the search or from their view because you're saving them time, not because you're doing it for yourself. Everybody on board? The next thing we're going to do, we're going to talk to them about what happens in showings. If the buyer doesn't know how open they need to be with us, if they don't know what we're looking for or what they should be looking for, how do they know what to do when they're actually in the house? Every buyer, you should assume, is a first-time home buyer who has no idea what they're doing. Why do we assume that these people know what to do? They don't. If they bought a home 10 years ago, they don't remember any of it. Or they've never done it before. They don't know to tell you all the things they love and they hate in the showings. You have to tell them, hey, by the way, when we're in a showing, I actually want to hear what you hate more than what you love. Because what you hate is going to allow me to make sure I don't keep taking you to homes that have what you hate. You need to tell your clients what's going to happen in the showings, in your consultations. It's so much easier to review. Like when I work with the home buyer, I'm constantly reviewing conversation that I've already had. Every step of the way is never a new conversation. When they want to write an offer, we've already reviewed what it takes to write an offer. When they want to talk about inspections, we've already reviewed what happens. If you set the expectations in these conversations that you're going to, by the way, you're going to all have the opportunity to do, because now we're going to have to do it. You're going to have to do these consultations if you want to work with home buyers. Make sense? All right. The next step. The offer time is the most stressful moment that these people have ever had in their whole lives. When I bought my first house, by the way, this is what I say to the buyer in the consultation. I say to the buyer, I told you about my horrible experience. One of those things was that the agent asked me in every single home what it would take for me to write an offer on that house. I want you to understand, Lynn, that I'm never going to ask you if you want to write an offer on a home. In fact, it doesn't matter to me if you write an offer on any given house because it's the house you are going to live in. So I want you to understand we're going to build a relationship and a trust with each other, that you're going to tell me when we're in a house that you would like to put an offer on. But if you don't tell me, I'm going to be looking for what's wrong with the house so we can find what's right. Does that sound fair? I say that to every buyer in every consultation. I'm relating back to my horrible experience. I'm showing them that it doesn't matter to me what house they write an offer on, but I also need them to open up when they want to write an offer. Like they just sit there silently. No, I need them to tell me so we know what to do. Your buyer needs to know what to do at the time of writing an offer. They need to know what's going to happen. Your buyer needs to know your contract before they write the contract. They need to know what it's like in the market and what the contingencies are of the contract before they do it. They deserve that. The buyer does not deserve to be sitting in a vacant, empty house with somebody telling them that they have to write an offer 20% over asking price, doing these things like waiving inspections or anything about the contract, and make these really important decisions that are very financially critical. They shouldn't be doing it for the first time or talking about it for the first time at the moment of doing it. The consultation is your opportunity to show your buyer your value and what you're going to do with them. Show them that you know your contract and how you're going to protect them in the contract and how you're going to represent them through your contract. This is your opportunity to do that. Make sense? By the way, that means knowing your contract. That means knowing everything about the contract. And the winners in the last 4 years in buyers have been the buyers that knew how to work the contract, understand the contract, and actually show value in how you write the offers. That's the next step. Next step is how you present an offer. This is not what happens in the consultation, but I talk, by the way, are we okay to go a little over? Lisa, I know we're going a little over. Are we okay?
Yes, we're fine.
Okay. I'm going to keep going anyway.
If somebody needs to go off, we are taping. So if somebody needs to pop off, everyone will get a copy.
And this is, like I said, this is a 4-hour workshop that I've been doing. Trying to break it down in 1 hour is critically impossible. And by the way, we booked this in March. So I'm like, now I learned, don't book that far out. But so presenting the offer. We are not talking about what happens in the consultation right now. I want everybody to understand we are leaving the consultation and just talking about who we are as professionals for a second. Because I promise you, your career will live and die on your representation, what people think of you in real estate. Your reputation is the only thing that matters with your clients, but it matters almost as much with your peers. Your co-op your reputation, I can't even say it. Your co-op reputation is the most important thing in your career. If you don't know it, start paying attention to it. How you write offers, how you present offers needs to be as easy as it can for that listing agent. The only person we need to impress when we write an offer is the listing agent. We need to impress the listing agent with how we present the offer. It is a fact. I promise you. You will lose deals if you don't make it easy for the listing agent to get that deal done. They care about nothing else other than getting the deal done, getting the most money for their clients, and then seeing you at settlement. They do not want to hear from things. They don't want to deal with frustrations. And if they feel that you're not organized, detailed, and prepared, you're losing deals all day and your clients are losing deals. I'm going to tell you real quickly, in 2020, I had the best year of my life in real estate. Most of the time, it was amongst 10, 15 offers like we all dealt with. In 2020, most of my deals, I was not the number one offer when I wrote that original offer. Maybe I was the third best offer. But if I'm the third best offer and the agent goes to the sellers and says, these two offers were written disorganized, or I know the agent and they're not a good agent, that happens. We all know this. They have the right to sit with the seller and tell the seller, we're going to get you the best situation possible. We're going to get you the most money in a deal that's the easiest way possible. If you allow me, I'm going to go to Adam and I'm going to ask Adam and his organized, detailed, prepared buyers, if they're willing to go to this other number, then they're going to get the house. In 2020, almost all my deals, I was not the number one offer when I wrote the first offer. But because of my reputation, but because I wrote those offers with summaries and details and organization, and they took those offers and go, man, no one's more detailed or organized. I'm going to give Adam a chance to match it. And I'd get $1 million. I got almost all my deals done not being the best offer. This matters. our reputation matters. If I asked everybody here to sit down and write the name of the person they don't want to do real estate with or do business with, a lot of names will match up. Let's not be the name that people don't want to work with. In fact, be the name for your clients that people want to work with. Because the cool thing is, when I call my clients and tell them, by the way, we're not the best offer, but if you do this, you can get the house. How many stories at housewarmings are they going to tell about the person that helped them buy the home when they weren't the best offer and they would have never gotten it? How many buyers are getting a call the next day and saying you didn't get the house and they don't know why they didn't get it? My buyers would get those calls, they didn't get the house, and they know they didn't get it because they told me the day before they weren't willing to go to that number. And I'm able to move forward with that buyer, and they're not even disappointed because they decided they weren't going to be the ones going to that number. Make sense? All right. Next, commitment. Wow, we were so scared. Everybody's so scared of the paperwork of getting people to hire us. I'm going to tell you it's very easy. I'm going to tell you the first reason why it's very easy. When a buyer signs a buyer agency contract, I'm going to speak to Pennsylvania because we're right here in Pennsylvania. When a buyer signs a buyer agency contract, a buyer can get out of that contract very easily. They sign that contract with me on Thursday. If they decide on Friday that I am not the buyer agent that they want to work with anymore, they can end that relationship at any time. Lynn, am I right? Everybody agree with that? They have to do things. We all agree. They have to break a chain of relation. They have to do something, but they can easily get out of it. What I contend is the buyer doesn't know that. What I would say is when we put contracts in front of human beings, they believe that they're signing something that has them committed to you for some sort of infinite period of time. And when they sign a listing contract to sell their home, there is a definitive amount of time, and it is hard to get out of that contract. When you sign a listing contract, the seller signs it with you, you go through all this stuff, and it's very hard for them to say, I want to go hire somebody else. But the buyer doesn't know that they actually aren't stuck with you when they hire you. They never were and they never are. So the first thing I do with my buyers is explain that to them. Show them that they have the power to end the relationship if they don't feel like you're the right person. Give them that right. Now that's personal. I do that, and I've done that for 13 years. I've not been fired by one client in 13 years. But the buyer should understand that they have that right, that they're not stuck with you. That you are, here's the thing. In 13 years, I've met with, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people doing consultations. When they leave that consultation, they hire me. They're going to choose, am I going to work with Adam, someone that I can fire if he doesn't actually follow through with everything in this consultation, or am I going to leave this consultation and go work with a door opener after everything he just told me can happen in the process by working with the wrong person? Am I going to work with some random other person? Nobody decides to pick the random other person after you just spend an hour and a half showing them why it's important to have the right person. And when you say to them, by the way, I'm so confident that I'm going to give you the right to fire me if you don't believe I'm the right person, the rest of it is very, very easy. Very, very easy. So then you go through the buyer agency paperwork and you show them exactly what they're hiring you to do. And you tell them that you expect to get paid in the process of buying the house. Why? Do your clients not expect you to be paid? I believe that all of my clients, when I helped them buy a home, didn't think I was doing it for free. And nothing's going to change with that. We have to communicate to the buyer how it's going to work when they write an offer on a home. And we're going to write an offer in a way that works for them financially. And we don't know what works for them financially until we know everything about them. So for most buyers, financially, they may not be able to cover the 2.5% commission that I'm going to ask for me to be paid. And I'm going to tell them, this is what I expect. When we write an offer or when we go see a home, you're going to understand the whole process before we see the house. And you're going to understand when we write the offer of the home, I'm going to be asking the seller to pay that on your behalf. And if it's not going to work, we're going to work it out in a way that works for you on any given home. That's all we need to say. Because when we're sitting down with the buyers and we're considering each individual home, we will deal with it when we get to that point when we're talking about the homes we're showing our clients. We have to stop freaking out about some sort of world falling apart in the world of real estate and start worrying about what we always should have been worried about. The consumer. The consumer always deserved this conversation. They deserve to hire someone who's representing them in the process. And they deserve all of what we're giving them. And the only thing we've been worried about is how are we going to be? oh, are we going to be okay? Are we going to get paid? Are we going to get commitments? If we actually sit down with a buyer, they'll never do it without you. They won't buy the house without you. And the market will work out. Because I don't know there's a million buyers out there that can afford to pay commission. And there's not a million buyers out there willing to just go buy homes having the listing agent. By the way, the listing agent doesn't want to write 15 offers on their own listings. Buyer agency matters. Buyer agency is going to matter, and buyer agency is going to be here for the agents that show value to the consumer, and it has to start with the consultation. However you do it, it isn't the hard part. When I do the workshop, I can sit down and go even further into how I sit down with these buyers. They're excited to hire me. They're thrilled to hire me because they realize now they need to have somebody, because the seller has hired somebody. The seller has interviewed 3 or 4 people before they hired that listing agent to sell their house. Your buyer deserves someone representing them. All right. This, after all of that, is when I go over criteria with the home buyer. I want you to understand something. Why am I going to let the buyer tell me for 20 minutes about their criteria if they haven't committed to me yet? If I am not their realtor, I tell them, you probably shouldn't be telling me the personal things about the house you want to buy right now, because you probably should be doing with the person that you trust. So if in this moment they haven't committed to me that I'm their person that they're going to trust, I give them the opportunity to go think about that before they actually give me all the personal things about their criteria. If they decide they want to think about it, then I just save myself all the time of this buyer telling me about the 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths they want, all the things that they want in a house when I'm not even the person they trust yet. This is the time when I go over criteria. If you notice, I controlled the whole process of the conversation to a point where now they're giving me their criteria, not in the beginning. And they give me the criteria very detailed and to the point, because they've been there for an hour or an hour and a half. So now I don't get a million different things. I get the very detailed, focused criteria that I need. Make sense? All right. After that, we got to start making it epic. What I will tell you is this. You need to get your database in order. When your buyer leaves the consultation, you better know their birthdays, their anniversaries, their kids' names, their favorite sports teams, what they love to do, everything about them, and you better get it into your CRM because you are not going to remember it. You need to make the epic experience by knowing who your people are and get your notes into a system. Little Post-it notes are not going to work to remember the personal things about your clients. The cool thing now is technology makes it really easy. Fathom, Fathom. It's a free app that attaches to Zoom that will record your entire consultations with all the notes, with the summary and everything. It's an AI tool that allows you to basically take your entire consultations and put them into your CRM. That way, if you want to remember something about one of your buyers you met with, you could watch the whole consultation free. By the way, you can also voice into your computer. So you don't even have to type the notes if you don't have Fathom, because you can hit Windows H on your phone and you could dictate anything you want into your computer. So I leave my consultations and I take all the notes. I put all my notes, anything personal. They told me anything. I had a client last week that told me he likes sourdough. When his birthday comes along, I'm buying him a shirt that says something about sourdough on it. Why? Because I remembered it, and he'll know that I remembered something about him. Make sense? This is all about making it epic. This is the time that you can to actually put your notes in so you can actually work with 30 or 40 people a year and have them feel like you actually are helping them personally. All right. Post steps. When we leave every appointment, I send a video message to every client thanking them for the opportunity to represent them, or if they haven't decided that I'm the right person, showing them that I'm excited to be their guide and looking forward to hearing from them. I create a text chain with everybody involved in the process. If there are 3 people buying that house, I do not need to hear from one of them at a time about a property. I'd rather have them all text me in one group and then answer to all of them in one text group. It's so much easier if you can create a text chain with your buyers that you can communicate to them all at one time. I set their search up. I connect them with the lender like we discussed immediately, and then I get the database information. All right. A lot more. There's so much more to this, by the way. Way too much to get into in 1 hour. I think Lynn's like, man, Adam, you're into this now. All right. There's a lot of free material that I want to share with everybody. So I'm going to send it out. All I ask you to do is give me some feedback today. Take a little bit of time and give me some feedback on what you think about the message that I'm sharing. If there's things I can do to be better, This is all about me getting better at this. If you do that, I'm going to send you a consultation journal, which literally will break down the entire consultation we just did, but allow you to create your own show. If you noticed in the beginning, I said, you need to create your own show. I gave you a foundation for the consultation, but you need to be yourself in it. So I'm going to give you a editable journal so you can journal your own consultation and keep changing it and make it your own. 13 years later, I'm still changing every time I do a consultation to make it better. And then I'm going to give you a tracking form. You need to track your numbers. I know that I show 4.5 homes per buyer over 10 years because I tracked every single house I've shown to every single buyer. I know that I only write 1.4 offers per buyer because I track every single offer that I write for every single buyer. When you meet with buyers in the future, they're going to want to know, oh, wow, you only show 4.5 homes because your clients go see the right home as fast as possible. Or when my clients write homes, they only write 1.4 because you won't lose homes over and over again with the wrong agent. These are valuable things. So I'm going to give you a tracking form that will make it really easy so you have no excuses but to track these numbers that are very, very important for you. Track how many homes you're showing, how many offers you're writing, who are your co-op agents, and where is your business coming from. You need to track all of those so you can see where you can get better. All right, questions. Not too bad. 15 minutes past. Sorry, Lisa. Man, that was a lot. I tried to squeeze it all in like an hour. It's like impossible. So I apologize to everybody if I was going too fast or not giving everybody a chance to speak. So I am here. I will answer questions until there are no more.
For you, Adam.
Yes.
Okay, so you're really cutting down on the number of houses that people are seeing.
Yeah.
How is that not steering?
So first of all, I love that you say it, but I wouldn't word it that way. What I'm doing is getting to know what are important to my clients and only pointing out big red flag things that they probably don't know about. For instance, let's just say a home has a septic system that's 80 years old on a 1/4 of an acre with well and septic. And they don't know anything about well and septic. And they see a home that looks beautiful, but when I tell them, hey, just so you know, it is well and septic, I would want them to know that before they see the house. That's not something that's steering them towards or away from it. It's just something that they would know, okay, now I know about that, and maybe I won't want to go see it. It's only personal things that I want them to know about that they've told me in the consultation. It isn't about where the house is as much as does the house fit what they're talking about, or does the house have big red flags that they would want to know about because they told me they don't want to be on a main road. Well, what they're seeing is actually a main road and they didn't see it or they don't know it. Hey guys, I want to make sure you know that it's actually a busier road than you might think. And rather than go see it and say, hey Adam, why are we here? We told you we don't want a busy road. We've had that conversation. It's more or less them I get them thinking about what's wrong with the home first. Because when they go on Zillow, they're looking at these pictures and saying, I fall in love with very few things, instead of saying, wait, let me trust Adam first to say what's wrong with it from a physical perspective most of the time. Does that make sense?
But you're actually following their directions and not showing them at home.
This is all about them and me reiterating what they have told me in the consultation is important to them, or it's assuming that the buyer doesn't know the things that they don't know about homes in general. Like the buyer sees a kitchen and goes, oh my God, I love that house. Well, I just studied that house. You told me that you have 3 kids that are very small. And the master bedroom on that house is on the first floor right next to the kitchen. I just want you to know ahead of time that are you okay having the master bedroom on the first floor with small children that will be upstairs? Because I know you said that you want to be careful because you have small children. I'd rather them know now than go to the house and say, Adam, this house isn't going to work for us. The master bedroom's there and the other 3 bedrooms are upstairs. Why are we here? There's so many other things that we can do to make sure our buyers don't feel like they're wasting time. What we do instead is just order take. We just take a list of the homes they want to go see and take them to see it. And we go, oh, wow, I just took the buyer to see 10 homes. They must love me because I spent a whole day with them working for them. And in reality, They didn't want to spend that whole day with you. They wanted to see the right home or the wrong home and get out of it. It's about them. It's just, yeah, it's educating them so that we're not educating them in the home. Or the worst case scenario is they're outside the house and they're saying, Adam, there's a train track behind the house. We don't want anything to do with trains behind our home. Why didn't we know about that? A
Perfect.
lot of people ask me about that because I think there's a fear that people think that I'm talking people out of seeing homes that they might buy or could buy. I'm not in the business of talking my clients out of homes that they would love to live in and buy, or know it, or profess to know enough about them to say, you're not going to like that granite countertop, so I'm not going to take you to see it. It's about knowing the things that our buyers should know before they show up at the house.
You're giving them the information that they really want.
Yeah. Because if they're in the house saying, Adam, we told you we don't like this, why didn't you tell us? Well, why didn't I do it? Because you texted me with 17 exclamation points. You want to go see 123 Main Street. So I just scheduled it. And then they get angry with you because you didn't tell them that 123 Main Street had these 5 things that they told you they didn't want. Like,
Yes.
Perfect example. Adam, I have to see this house. I looked it up. You told me you have to have a 2-car garage. That home doesn't even have a garage. Oh man, I didn't see that. Thank you. I won't see that house. That's different from, why are we in this house, Adam? It doesn't have a garage. Well, you told me you wanted to see it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Nice job.
Yeah,
Thank you, Lynn.
thank you so much. I don't see any other questions, and I know we're running a little behind.
Yeah.
So, you know, I wanted to thank you on behalf of BCAR. We really appreciate your time. And again, this has been recorded. Everyone will receive a copy of it. We're working on a program with Adam and a couple other of our instructors for October 10th. It's going to be a membership program on buyer agency with some actual buyer consultations. So we'll hope you'll look for that and register for that. And again, thank you, Adam. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys. If anybody wants me to discuss doing the workshop, because what we just did is like a brief version of an entire workshop where we script out, and actually script with the agents word for word what we do, just reach out to me. I'm happy to do it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody in October live in person.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the day and enjoy your weekend. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.